In the cold darkness of space, a derelict battlefield drifts silently, a graveyard of ships that bore witness to the catastrophic defeat humanity suffered at the hands of the lizard race. Amidst the wreckage, a single life pod attached to the remains of a human cruiser serves as a cocoon for its occupant, Commander John Avery, a man whose name had become synonymous with valiant resistance against the oppressors of humanity. Presumed dead by both his people and his enemies, Avery's body lies in stasis, preserved against the decay of time. As the cosmos wheels indifferently above, a pulse of energy not seen for eons ripples through the void, converging upon the life pod. The pod's systems, long dormant, flicker to life under the influence of an ancient alien technology beyond human understanding. The energy invades the pod, encasing Avery in a luminescent cocoon of alien design. Within this cradle of light, Avery's body undergoes a transformation, guided by an intelligence that predates the stars. Awakening from his death-like slumber, Avery finds himself floating in a chamber filled with an ethereal light. His wounds, lethal in any normal circumstance, have healed, leaving no trace of the battle that had claimed his life. As his senses return, so too does the realization of his miraculous survival. But this rebirth is not without purpose. The entity responsible for his resurrection, a consciousness from the dawn of the galaxy, communicates through emotions and fragmented visions. It reveals the extent of humanity's plight. Entire worlds enslaved, cultures dismantled, and the human spirit chained by the lizard race's unyielding dominion. However, Avery's revival serves a higher purpose. The ancient entity, moved by humanity's resilience and suffering, imbues him with powers meant to even the odds against their oppressors. With abilities no human has ever wielded, Avery is tasked with an insurmountable mission: to free his people and lead them out of the darkness of subjugation. Understanding the weight of his new destiny, Avery steels himself for the path ahead. He must first reconnect with what remains of humanity and marshal a force capable of standing against the lizard race. But before he can lead, he must learn to wield his newfound abilities, to navigate the complexities of galactic politics, and to forge alliances with beings whose existence humanity had yet to acknowledge. As the ancient entity's presence recedes, leaving Avery to his monumental task, he steps out of the chamber into the remnants of his ship, looking out into the void. The stars, once symbols of humanity's aspirations, now mark the vast battlefield upon which Avery's crusade will unfold. With determination etched into his very soul, Avery sets his sights on the nearest habitable system, ready to embark on a journey that will either see humanity's liberation or its final stand. Thus begins the saga of John Avery, a commander reborn from death's embrace, a beacon of hope in humanity's darkest hour, and the architect of the greatest rebellion the galaxy has ever seen. Commander John Avery's first step in his monumental task was to infiltrate a lizard-controlled station orbiting a once-thriving human colony planet, now reduced to a mere shadow under the oppressive rule of the lizard race. Utilizing his newly acquired abilities to cloak his presence, Avery slips aboard a lizard supply vessel, making its routine delivery of resources plundered from the colony. As the vessel docks with the station, a sprawling complex of metal and menace, Avery disembarks unseen, melding into the shadows. The station, a hub of activity, teems with the lizard race's soldiers and commanders, overseeing the logistics that fuel their interstellar empire. Here, in the heart of enemy territory, Avery seeks the intelligence necessary to begin the dismantling of the lizard race's stranglehold on humanity. Moving undetected through the station's corridors, Avery taps into his newfound powers to interface with the station's data archives. His mind, enhanced by the ancient entity's gift, navigates the complex alien networks with ease, sifting through the encrypted data for information on troop deployments, supply routes, and most crucially, the locations of human prisoners used as labor or for cruel experiments. The sheer scale of the operation is daunting. The lizard race has its tendrils in dozens of systems, each colony bent to its will, each planet stripped of its resources. But among the cold facts and figures, Avery finds glimmers of hope, reports of resistance activities, hidden enclaves of humans evading capture, and potential weaknesses in the lizard race's overextended supply lines. As Avery delves deeper into the data, he uncovers plans for a massive fleet movement aimed at quashing the last known pockets of organized resistance. Time is of the essence. If these plans come to fruition, any chance of a united human rebellion could be extinguished before it even begins. With the crucial intelligence in hand, Avery prepares to make his escape, but not before sabotaging the station's communications array. A calculated risk, the sabotage would delay the discovery of his infiltration and sow confusion among the lizard commanders, buying precious time for the resistance. His mission on the station complete, Avery evades capture through a mixture of stealth, guile, and the judicious use of his powers. As he makes his way back to the stolen supply vessel, he knows that the road ahead is fraught with peril. But the information he has secured is the first victory in what promises to be a long and arduous campaign. Returning to the hidden enclave of humanity's remnants, Avery is met with a mix of skepticism and awe. Here, among the broken and the defiant, he must forge the nucleus of a resistance capable of challenging the galaxy-spanning might of the lizard race. With the intelligence gathered, Avery begins to lay the groundwork for an uprising, rallying the scattered forces of humanity around a singular goal: freedom. With the invaluable intelligence gathered from the lizard-controlled station now in his possession, Commander John Avery knew the next crucial step was to unify the fractured remnants of humanity's resistance. The data had revealed not only the extent of the lizard race's grip on human territories, but also pockets of resistance that until now had fought their battles in isolation, unaware of each other's struggles. Avery embarked on a covert journey across the occupied systems, a journey fraught with danger at every turn. Utilizing the stealth capabilities granted by his resurrection, he made contact with these disparate groups, each encounter a delicate dance of trust and skepticism. Avery found himself facing down not only the external threat of discovery by the lizard patrols, but also the internal challenge of convincing independent, often disillusioned leaders to join a united front under his command. He traveled first to a mining colony on the edge of the belt of Daran, where humans toiled under harsh conditions, extracting valuable minerals for their oppressors. Here, Avery found a group of miners who had secretly sabotaged lizard operations, a small act of defiance that had earned them brutal retaliation. To these weary souls, Avery presented a vision of resistance, not as scattered acts of sabotage, but as a coordinated campaign to reclaim their freedom. Next, Avery sought out the remnants of a failed uprising on the agricultural world of Ceres III. The planet's once verdant fields had been turned into vast farms to feed the lizard race's armies, its people driven to despair. Yet, from this despair, a core of fighters had emerged, hardened by loss and ready to strike back. Avery offered them not just hope, but a strategy and the promise of support from a growing coalition of rebels. With each group he encountered, Avery shared the intelligence he had gathered, using it to illustrate the broader context of their struggle and to highlight the opportunity that unity offered. He spoke of coordinated strikes to disrupt supply lines, of liberating prisoner camps to swell their ranks, and of the eventual goal, a combined assault on the lizard race's command structure. As word of Avery's mission spread through secret channels and encrypted messages, the tide began to turn. Skepticism gave way to cautious optimism, and isolated cells of resistance started to see themselves as part of a larger whole. Avery, leveraging both his tactical acumen and his enhanced abilities, became a symbol of hope, a beacon around which the scattered forces of humanity could rally. But it was not just Avery's strategic vision that united the resistance. It was his personal transformation, his resurrection, and his powers. These elements lent an almost mythical quality to his leadership, inspiring those who had thought their situation hopeless. The very existence of such a figure, back from the dead to lead humanity's fight for freedom, galvanized the resistance in a way that mere military strategy could not. Under Avery's guidance, a loose network of rebel cells began to coalesce into a more organized resistance movement. Training camps were established on hidden bases, supply lines were secured, and plans for a series of coordinated strikes began to take shape. The resistance, once a collection of disparate and disconnected efforts, started to operate with a singular purpose, embodying Avery's vision of a unified front against the lizard race. Under the cloak of the galaxy's vast darkness, the newly formed United Human Resistance, led by Commander John Avery, prepared to launch its first coordinated strike against the lizard race. This initial operation was not just a test of their collective strength, but also a symbolic act of defiance, signaling the beginning of humanity's earnest fight for freedom. The target was an outpost on the moon of a gas giant in the Rymor system, a critical junction for the lizard race's supply lines and communication networks. Its fall would disrupt enemy operations in the sector and boost the morale of the resistance fighters. Avery had chosen this target with meticulous care, balancing the need for a significant impact with the imperative to minimize risk to his nascent force. The outpost, though heavily guarded, was small enough for a well-planned assault to succeed and provided a strategic advantage. Its destruction would hamper the lizard race's ability to resupply their forward bases, creating chaos in their meticulously ordered ranks. In the hours leading up to the attack, Avery and his lieutenants finalized their plans. Small strike teams, composed of humans who had suffered under the yoke of the lizard race's tyranny, were briefed on their roles. Each team knew the stakes. Many had personal scores to settle, having lost loved ones to the outpost's commanders or its prisons. The assault was launched under the cover of a meteor shower, a natural phenomenon that masked the approach of the resistance fighters' ships. Avery, leveraging his enhanced abilities, led the vanguard, infiltrating the outpost's defenses to sow confusion and disable its communication arrays. With the element of surprise on their side, the resistance fighters landed and breached the outpost's outer defenses. What followed was a fierce battle, fought in the corridors and control rooms of the outpost. The resistance fighters, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity born of desperation and the burning desire for freedom. Avery, moving among them, was a whirlwind of destruction, his powers turning the tide of the battle at critical junctures. As the outpost's defenders reeled under the unexpected onslaught, the resistance hacked into the outpost's systems, sending false signals to delay any reinforcement from the lizard race's nearby forces. Simultaneously, demolition teams planted charges at key structural points, preparing to bring down the outpost in a decisive blow. The climax of the battle came as Avery confronted the outpost commander, a notorious overseer responsible for countless human deaths. Their duel, a visceral struggle between oppressor and the embodiment of oppressed fury, ended with Avery emerging victorious, a moment that would later become legend among the resistance. With the commander defeated and the outpost's defenses crumbling, Avery ordered the withdrawal. The demolition charges were activated, and the resistance fighters made their escape just as the outpost was consumed in a fiery cataclysm. The explosion lit up the moon's surface, a beacon of the resistance's resolve and a stark warning to the lizard race. As the resistance fighters returned to their hidden bases, their spirits buoyed by victory, news of the assault spread like wildfire among the occupied worlds. The destruction of the Rymor outpost was not just a tactical success, it was a symbol of humanity's rekindled hope and resilience. Following their triumphant first strike against the Rymor outpost, Commander John Avery and the United Human Resistance faced a stark reality. Despite their victory, they were significantly outmatched in terms of military might and resources. Avery knew that to sustain their momentum and stand a chance against the lizard race, the resistance needed to forge alliances beyond humanity. This chapter of their struggle opened a new front, not in the battlefield, but in the complex arena of intergalactic diplomacy. Avery's strategy led him to seek out the Elari, a reclusive aquatic species whose homeworld had been one of the first to fall to the lizard race's expansion. The Elari had since lived under the guise of compliance, their true sentiments a closely guarded secret. Avery believed that their shared victimhood under the lizard dominion could form the basis of a powerful alliance. Arriving on the Elari's oceanic planet under the cover of stealth, Avery and a select team of envoys presented themselves to the Alari's Underwater Council. The negotiations were fraught with tension. The Alari were skeptical of human motives and wary of risking open rebellion against the lizard race. Avery, however, appealed to their shared desire for freedom and the strategic advantages of their combined forces. He spoke passionately of the recent victory at Remor and the growing strength of the human resistance. As talks progressed, Avery's sincerity and the evidence of humanity's resolve began to sway the Alari Council. A turning point came when Avery revealed the extent of the lizard race's vulnerabilities uncovered through their intelligence efforts. This information, coupled with Avery's assurance of mutual defense, convinced the Alari of the potential benefits of an alliance. With the Alari's agreement to join forces with the human resistance, Avery turned his attention to the Solari Confederation, a coalition of species that had maintained a fragile neutrality in the galactic conflict. The Solari, advanced in the arts of espionage and information warfare, had valuable intelligence capabilities that could significantly bolster the Resistance's efforts. Convincing the Solari Confederation to break their neutrality was no easy task. It required a delicate balance of diplomacy, showcasing the growing coalition's strength, and highlighting the existential threat the lizard race posed to the galaxy's diverse cultures. Avery's argument that the lizard race's dominion would eventually leave no room for neutrality struck a chord with the Solari leadership. The addition of the Alari and the Solari to the Resistance's cause marked a significant turning point in the conflict. News of these alliances spread quickly, inspiring other subjugated species to consider their stance against the lizard race. Avery's coalition began to resemble a true intergalactic movement, a united front of species standing together for their freedom. However, these alliances came with their challenges. Cultural differences and historical grievances threatened to undermine the coalition's unity. Avery found himself navigating not only the external threat of the lizard race, but also the internal complexities of alliance politics. He worked tirelessly to foster mutual respect and understanding among the coalition's diverse members, emphasizing their common goal over individual ambitions. With the newly forged alliance bolstering the ranks of the United Human Resistance, Commander John Avery now faced the monumental task of coordinating a multi-species coalition against the lizard race. The addition of the Alari and the Solari Confederation, each with their unique capabilities and resources, offered a significant advantage, yet also presented complex logistical and strategic challenges. Avery, understanding the delicate balance of this coalition, embarked on a campaign to turn the tide of the war, aiming to exploit the vulnerabilities of the lizard race exposed by their new allies. The first operation under this expanded alliance targeted a series of lizard race supply depots located in the outer regions, which were critical in supporting their expansive military operations across the galaxy. Avery devised a plan that leveraged the Alari's aquatic adaptability and the Solari's intelligence network, marking a departure from conventional warfare that the lizard race had come to expect from human resistance. These raids were not only successful in disrupting the lizard race's supply lines, but also served as proof of concept for the efficacy of the coalition's diverse capabilities. Encouraged by these successes, Avery pushed further, orchestrating a campaign of sabotage and misinformation that sowed chaos within the lizard race's ranks. The Solari, with their advanced espionage skills, infiltrated the lizard's communication networks, planting false orders and intelligence that led to infighting and mistrust among different lizard factions. Meanwhile, Alari commandos launched underwater attacks on lizard coastal installations, exploiting vulnerabilities that had previously been thought secure against assault. As the coalition's victories accumulated, more species began to take notice. The momentum of the Resistance's efforts inspired other subjugated peoples to rise up, swelling the ranks of the coalition with new fighters and resources. Avery welcomed these new allies, each bringing their own grievances and strengths to the cause. The Resistance, once a fledgling human movement, had truly become a galactic force to be reckoned with. However, with greater success came greater scrutiny. The lizard race, recognizing the growing threat the coalition posed, escalated their efforts to quash the rebellion. Avery and his allies found themselves facing increasingly sophisticated countermeasures, from enhanced surveillance to elite strike forces designed to target the coalition's leadership. The war, it seemed, was entering a new and more dangerous phase. Amidst these challenges, Avery worked tirelessly to maintain the unity and morale of the coalition. He understood that their strength lay not just in their military capabilities, but in the shared conviction that freedom was worth fighting for, regardless of the cost. Avery held councils with leaders of the various species within the coalition, fostering a sense of camaraderie and mutual respect that transcended cultural and biological differences. One particularly pivotal moment came when Avery led a daring rescue operation to free prisoners of war from a heavily fortified lizard detention center. Among those rescued were members of species that had remained neutral or even mildly supportive of the lizard race. This act of valor demonstrated the coalition's commitment to liberation and justice, further cementing the alliance and drawing in more support from across the galaxy. The war had reached a critical juncture, with Commander John Avery's galactic coalition gaining ground against the lizard race, fueled by a series of strategic victories and an ever-growing alliance of species united under the banner of freedom. However, the fragile nature of trust within this diverse coalition was about to be tested in a manner that would shake the very foundations of their unity. The turning point came with the introduction of a new ally, the Zenthra, a species known for their technological prowess and previously thought to be uninterested in the galactic conflict. Their sudden willingness to share advanced weapons technology and intelligence with the coalition was initially met with celebration. Avery, ever cautious but optimistic, welcomed the Zenthra into the fold, hoping their contribution could be the key to turning the tide decisively in their favor. However, the Zenthra's true motives were far from altruistic. Embedded within the technology they provided was a sophisticated surveillance system designed to infiltrate the coalition's communications network and relay strategic plans directly to the lizard race. The betrayal was discovered when a series of planned attacks on critical lizard infrastructure were ambushed with devastating precision, leading to heavy casualties among the coalition forces. The revelation of the Zenthra's deceit sent shockwaves through the coalition. Avery, feeling the weight of the betrayal on his shoulders, was forced to confront not only the loss of life, but also the erosion of trust among his allies. The unity that had been so painstakingly built was now in peril as species within the coalition began to cast suspicious glances at one another, wondering if there were other traitors in their midst. Avery knew that allowing the coalition to fracture would spell the end of their rebellion. In a bid to salvage the situation, he called an emergency meeting of the coalition's leadership, addressing the betrayal openly and without minimizing its impact. He acknowledged the pain and mistrust the Zenthra's actions had caused, but urged his allies to remember the values that had united them in the first place. In a defining speech, Avery highlighted the importance of resilience in the face of adversity. He pointed out that the lizard race's decision to exploit their coalition through subterfuge was a sign of desperation, an acknowledgement that the united front of diverse species fighting for their freedom was a threat they could not counter by conventional means. Avery argued that the betrayal, though painful, underscored the effectiveness of their campaign and the fear it instilled in their enemies. To rebuild trust, Avery proposed the establishment of a new, secure communication network, developed with the collective expertise of all coalition members, ensuring no single party had unilateral control or access. He also suggested a council of representatives from each species within the coalition to oversee strategic decisions, enhancing transparency and mutual accountability. The aftermath of the betrayal and Avery's efforts to address it became a turning point for the coalition. The shared experience of deceit and the collective commitment to overcoming it forged stronger bonds among the species. They emerged from the crisis with a renewed sense of purpose and unity, more determined than ever to fight for their freedom. The fallout from the Zenthra betrayal left the coalition in a precarious position, with morale at a nadir and the threat of internal discord looming large. Commander John Avery, recognizing the fragility of the alliance and the critical need for cohesion, initiated a period of consolidation and reflection. This chapter in their struggle was not marked by bold strikes or daring raids, but by the quieter, no less crucial task of rebuilding and reinforcing the bonds that held the coalition together. Avery's first act was to retreat to a hidden base, a location known only to the most trusted members of the coalition. This sanctuary, nestled in the asteroid belt of the Tarn system, served as a temporary haven from the lizard race's prying eyes and the chaos of war. Here, Avery convened a summit of the coalition's leaders, a gathering that would come to define the next phase of their rebellion. The summit was a testament to Avery's leadership and diplomacy. Each leader was given the floor to voice their grievances, fears, and hopes. Avery listened, mediated, and when necessary, challenged. The discussions were at times heated, as pain and betrayal had left deep scars. Yet through these candid exchanges, a renewed sense of purpose began to crystallize. Avery emphasized the need for unity, not just as a strategic imperative, but as a moral one. The diversity of the coalition, he argued, was its greatest strength, a living refutation of the lizard race's doctrine of supremacy. Amidst the strategizing and debate, Avery also recognized the need for a tangible demonstration of solidarity. He proposed a series of joint operations, each meticulously planned to ensure success and minimize risk. These operations were designed not just to strike at the lizard race, but to rebuild trust and camaraderie among the coalition forces. Teams were mixed, with members of different species fighting side by side, sharing risks and victories. The operations, though small in scale, were significant in impact, yielding much-needed supplies, intelligence, and most importantly, a series of unmitigated successes that served to boost morale. Parallel to these military efforts, Avery spearheaded a campaign of outreach and propaganda aimed at both the coalition and the wider galaxy. Messages of unity, resilience, and defiance were broadcast, showcasing the coalition's diversity and strength. Stories of individual bravery and sacrifice, drawn from the myriad cultures within the alliance, were highlighted to inspire and motivate. This propaganda campaign, while serving to bolster morale within the coalition, also aimed to sow dissent among the lizard race's subjects, encouraging more species to question their rulers and, perhaps, join the resistance. The period of regrouping also saw the introduction of new technologies and tactics into the coalition's arsenal. The lessons learned from the Zenthra betrayal had underscored the importance of self-reliance and innovation. Avery encouraged a culture of experimentation and adaptation, leveraging the unique attributes of each coalition member. This led to the development of hybrid technologies and strategies that combined the best of what each species had to offer, further enhancing the coalition's capability to confront and confound the lizard race. With the coalition reinvigorated and more united than ever, Commander John Avery set his sights on an audacious goal that would bring the fight directly to the lizard race, a covert mission to their homeworld, Slithoria. This planet, a fortress of military might and political power, lay at the very heart of the Lizard Empire. Avery's plan was not one of open assault, which would have been suicidal, but of infiltration and intelligence gathering. The objective was to uncover weaknesses in the lizard race's dominion and to sow seeds of dissent within their ranks, leveraging the coalition's renewed strength and unity. Avery handpicked a team for the mission, comprising members from various species within the coalition, each chosen for their unique skills and abilities. This team included a Solari cryptographer, an Alari deep-sea commando adapted for the high-pressure environments of Slithoria's oceanic depths, and a human tech specialist renowned for her hacking prowess. Avery himself would lead the team, his presence a symbol of the mission's importance. The journey to Slithoria was fraught with peril. The lizard race's home system was heavily fortified, with sensor nets, patrol fleets, and automated defense platforms guarding every approach. The coalition's plan relied on stealth and deception. Their ship, a small, fast vessel with stealth capabilities, was disguised as a trader conforming to the lizard race's strict control of commerce within their empire. Upon arriving at Slithoria, the team executed a high-risk insertion, using the planet's dense atmosphere and electromagnetic anomalies to evade detection. They landed in a remote area, far from the sprawling cities and military installations that marked the lizard race's civilization. From there, they embarked on a perilous journey toward the heart of the empire, relying on their skills and the element of surprise to evade patrols and surveillance. The mission's first objective was to infiltrate a major data repository, a nexus of information and communication for the Lizard Empire. Here, the team hoped to access and extract critical intelligence on the lizard race's military strategies, political structures, and, crucially, any evidence of internal dissent or vulnerability that could be exploited. The infiltration was tense and fraught with close calls. The repository was heavily guarded, its defenses a testament to the lizard race's technological prowess and paranoia. However, Avery's team managed to penetrate its defenses, thanks in large part to their diverse capabilities and the ingenuity of their tactics. Within the repository, they discovered more than they had hoped for: detailed plans for a massive military expansion intended to crush the remaining pockets of resistance across the galaxy, and hidden within encrypted communications, signs of a deep-seated unrest among the lizard race's subject species. Armed with this knowledge, the team made their escape, their presence eventually discovered, sparking a frantic pursuit. Avery and his team raced against time, dodging patrols and navigating the treacherous terrain of Slithoria to reach their extraction point. As they lifted off from the surface, with lizard race fighters in hot pursuit, the team knew that their mission had been a success. They had struck at the heart of the enemy, obtaining vital intelligence that could change the course of the war and, perhaps more importantly, proving that the lizard race was not invincible. The return of Commander John Avery and his team from their daring mission to Slithoria marked a turning point in the Coalition's campaign against the lizard race. The intelligence they had secured was a treasure trove of strategic data, detailing the lizard race's military deployments, supply lines, and perhaps most shockingly, evidence of deep-seated unrest among various species under their dominion. But among these revelations, one stood out: a discovery that could alter the course of the conflict and challenge the very narrative the lizard race had constructed to justify their expansionist empire. Avery convened a high-level meeting with the Coalition's leadership, broadcasting the findings to every member species and ensuring that the revelations were disseminated through secure channels to avoid interception. The gathered leaders listened in stunned silence as Avery unveiled the truth behind the lizard race's ascension to power. Their empire was built not on inherent superiority or divine right, as they claimed, but on deceit, manipulation, and the subjugation of worlds through force and fear. The most significant revelation was the existence of an ancient treaty, predating the lizard race's rise, which outlined a galaxy-wide accord of peace and cooperation among the diverse civilizations of the galaxy. This document, thought to be a myth by many, detailed a time when the lizard race was just one of many species contributing to a thriving galactic community. The lizard race had violated this treaty, erasing it from the annals of history as they embarked on their campaign of conquest. This discovery served a dual purpose. It undermined the lizard race's claims of supremacy, providing a rallying cry for the Coalition, and it offered hope that a return to a more peaceful and cooperative galactic order was possible. Avery emphasized that exposing this truth to the wider galaxy could sway undecided species to their cause and further demoralize the lizard race's support base. However, the revelations also brought to light the extent of the lizard race's preparations for a final, crushing blow against the resistance. Armed with detailed plans of an impending military offensive, the Coalition now faced a race against time. Avery laid out the stark reality. They had a narrow window to strike a decisive blow, leveraging the newfound intelligence to preempt the lizard race's attack and, potentially, bring an end to the war. The strategy session that followed was tense, with Avery and his lieutenants weighing their options. They devised a bold plan to disrupt the lizard race's offensive, targeting key installations and command centers identified from the mission's intelligence. This plan was not without risks, requiring precise coordination among the Coalition's diverse forces and the commitment of significant resources and lives. But the potential rewards, a chance to significantly weaken the lizard race's military might and gain the upper hand, were too great to ignore. With the revelations from Slithoria fueling their resolve, Commander John Avery and the Coalition embarked on their most daring operation yet, the Battle for Liberation. This chapter in their struggle would see the culmination of months of planning and preparation as the Coalition launched a coordinated assault on key lizard race strongholds across the galaxy. The objective was clear: to disrupt the lizard race's impending offensive and strike a decisive blow that would shake the foundations of their empire. The battle plan, crafted with meticulous detail and drawing on the expertise of every member species within the Coalition, called for simultaneous strikes on multiple fronts. Strike teams would target critical military installations, communication hubs, and supply depots, aiming to cripple the lizard race's ability to mount a coordinated response. At the same time, fleet engagements would draw enemy forces away from key strategic objectives, creating openings for ground assaults and sabotage missions. Avery, leading from the front as always, divided his forces into specialized task groups, each assigned a specific role in the larger operation. The Alari, with their underwater expertise, would launch amphibious assaults on coastal installations, disrupting naval operations and cutting off supply lines. The Solari, masters of information warfare, would conduct cyber attacks on enemy command centers, sowing confusion and disarray among lizard race ranks. Human and other species strike teams would carry out precision strikes on high-value targets, such as planetary shield generators and orbital defense platforms. The battle for liberation began with a series of coordinated strikes across multiple systems, catching the lizard race off guard and stretching their defenses to the breaking point. In space, Coalition fleets engaged lizard warships in fierce battles, drawing enemy forces away from crucial ground targets. On the ground, Coalition strike teams infiltrated enemy installations, wreaking havoc behind enemy lines and paving the way for larger assault forces. As the battle raged on, Avery found himself at the forefront of the fighting, leading his forces with determination and courage. Each victory, each successful strike against the lizard race's tyranny, fueled the Coalition's momentum and bolstered their resolve. Yet the cost was high, with brave soldiers from every species laying down their lives in the fight for freedom. The turning point of the battle came with the capture of a key lizard race command center, a sprawling complex that housed vital communications infrastructure and strategic data. The Coalition's success in seizing this facility dealt a severe blow to the lizard race's ability to coordinate their forces, tipping the scales further in the Coalition's favor. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, the Coalition emerged victorious. The battle for liberation had not only disrupted the lizard race's impending offensive, but had also shattered the illusion of their invincibility. The galaxy watched in awe as news of the Coalition's triumph spread, inspiring hope among the oppressed and striking fear into the hearts of their oppressors. The battle for liberation had dealt a significant blow to the lizard race's empire, shattering their aura of invincibility and sending shockwaves throughout the galaxy. In the aftermath of the conflict, Commander John Avery and the Coalition faced a new set of challenges as they sought to consolidate their gains and lay the groundwork for a lasting peace. One of the immediate priorities was to secure the territories liberated during the battle, ensuring that they remained free from lizard race control and establishing interim governance structures to maintain stability. Avery worked closely with local leaders from the liberated worlds, empowering them to govern their own affairs while providing support and assistance from the Coalition. Another pressing concern was the need to rebuild and repair the war-torn regions of the galaxy. The Coalition launched a massive reconstruction effort, mobilizing resources and expertise from member species to restore infrastructure, rebuild communities, and provide aid to those displaced by the conflict. Avery recognized the importance of these efforts in winning the hearts and minds of the galaxy's inhabitants, demonstrating that the Coalition was not just a force of liberation, but also one of compassion and solidarity. At the same time, Avery and his allies remained vigilant, knowing that the lizard race would not simply accept defeat. The enemy's response to their defeat in the battle for liberation was unpredictable, and the coalition prepared for the possibility of retaliatory strikes or subversive actions aimed at undermining their progress. Intelligence gathering and reconnaissance operations were intensified, and defensive measures were put in place to protect coalition-held territories from potential threats. Amidst the chaos of post-war reconstruction, Avery also seized the opportunity to pursue diplomatic initiatives aimed at forging lasting alliances and partnerships across the galaxy. The success of the coalition's campaign had garnered them newfound respect and admiration, and Avery sought to capitalize on this goodwill to strengthen their position and further isolate the lizard race diplomatically. However, even as they worked to consolidate their gains and prepare for the challenges ahead, Avery and the coalition were haunted by the specter of unfinished business. The lizard race remained a formidable adversary, and the seeds of discontent sown within their empire during the battle for liberation threatened to erupt into open rebellion. Avery knew that the war was far from over and that the coalition would need to remain vigilant and united in the face of whatever trials lay ahead. As the dust settled from the battle for liberation and the galaxy began to rebuild, Commander John Avery and the coalition faced a new, unexpected challenge: internal strife. The fragile unity that had held the diverse species together during the war began to unravel as old rivalries resurfaced and new tensions emerged. The root of the conflict lay in the aftermath of the battle, as different species within the coalition vied for influence and control over the liberated territories. Disputes over resource allocation, governance structures, and cultural autonomy threatened to tear the fragile alliance apart. Avery found himself caught in the middle, trying to balance the competing interests of the coalition's members while maintaining the overarching goal of securing freedom for all. Compounding the internal discord were whispers of dissent among certain factions within the coalition. Rumors spread of secret negotiations with remnants of the lizard race's empire, clandestine deals struck in the shadows that threatened to undermine the coalition's hard-won victories. Avery knew that trust was fragile, and any hint of betrayal could have devastating consequences for the coalition's cohesion. Faced with this growing crisis, Avery took decisive action. He convened emergency meetings of the coalition's leadership, urging open dialogue and compromise to resolve their differences. He emphasized the importance of unity in the face of external threats, reminding his allies that their shared goal of freedom was more important than any individual grievances. Yet, despite Avery's efforts, tensions continued to simmer beneath the surface. The scars of war ran deep, and the wounds inflicted by centuries of oppression were not easily healed. Factions within the coalition became increasingly entrenched in their positions, unwilling to yield even for the sake of the greater good. As the situation grew more dire, Avery realized that more drastic measures were needed to prevent the coalition from fracturing completely. He called for a summit of all member species, a gathering that would be the largest and most inclusive in the coalition's history. The summit would provide a forum for open discussion and debate, allowing grievances to be aired and solutions to be found. The summit proved to be a turning point. In the face of the looming threat of internal division, the leaders of the coalition's member species set aside their differences and reaffirmed their commitment to the cause of freedom. They pledged to work together to address the root causes of their discord and to forge a path forward that respected the autonomy and dignity of all species within the coalition. Just as the coalition began to mend the fractures within its ranks, Commander John Avery received disturbing intelligence that threatened to unravel everything they had fought for. Reports surfaced of covert communications between high-ranking officials within the coalition and remnants of the lizard race's empire, suggesting the possibility of treachery from within their own ranks. Avery was shaken by the implications of this betrayal. The very foundation of the coalition's unity was under threat, and trust among its members had been severely undermined. Determined to uncover the truth, Avery launched a covert investigation, deploying his most trusted operatives to gather evidence and expose the traitors lurking in their midst. As the investigation unfolded, Avery faced mounting pressure from both within and outside the coalition. Factions within the alliance accused each other of collusion with the enemy, while external adversaries sought to exploit the chaos for their own gain. Avery navigated a treacherous political landscape, walking a fine line between uncovering the truth and preventing the coalition from tearing itself apart. Despite the obstacles, Avery's investigation eventually bore fruit. His operatives uncovered evidence of a clandestine network operating within the coalition, with ties to the remnants of the lizard race's empire. The traitors had been sowing discord and dissent from within, weakening the coalition's resolve and paving the way for a resurgence of lizard race influence. Armed with this damning evidence, Avery convened an emergency meeting of the coalition's leadership. He presented his findings with irrefutable proof of betrayal, naming the individuals responsible and outlining their treacherous actions. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled leaders, shaking their faith in the coalition to its core. In the wake of the revelations, Avery took swift and decisive action to root out the traitors and restore the coalition's unity. Those implicated in the conspiracy were stripped of their positions of authority and placed under arrest, pending further investigation and trial. The coalition's security protocols were strengthened, and measures were put in place to prevent future breaches of trust. Yet, despite Avery's efforts to contain the fallout from the betrayal, the damage had been done. Trust among the coalition's members had been shattered, and the scars of betrayal would take time to heal. Avery knew that rebuilding the coalition's unity would require more than just uncovering the truth. It would require a renewed commitment to the ideals of freedom, justice, and solidarity that had brought them together in the first place. In the aftermath of the betrayal that rocked the coalition to its core, Commander John Avery faced a daunting task: rebuilding trust and unity among its members. The wounds inflicted by treachery ran deep, but Avery was determined to lead the coalition through this dark chapter and emerge stronger than ever before. Avery understood that true redemption would require more than just punishment for the traitors. It would require a collective effort to reaffirm the coalition's shared values and commitment to freedom. He called for a series of reconciliation meetings, bringing together representatives from each member species to address the grievances and divisions that had emerged. These meetings were tense and emotional, as individuals grappled with the fallout of betrayal and the challenges of rebuilding trust. Avery encouraged open and honest dialogue, providing a platform for each voice to be heard and respected. Through this process, old wounds began to heal, and bridges of understanding were built between formerly estranged factions. To further foster reconciliation, Avery initiated a series of joint projects and initiatives that would require cooperation and collaboration among the coalition's members. These projects ranged from infrastructure development to cultural exchanges, providing opportunities for individuals from different species to work together toward common goals and rebuild the bonds of friendship and trust. At the same time, Avery remained vigilant, knowing that the threat of betrayal still lurked in the shadows. He implemented strict security measures to prevent future breaches of trust, including enhanced background checks for coalition personnel and regular audits of communication channels to detect any signs of subversion. As the reconciliation process progressed, Avery also focused on strengthening the coalition's external alliances and partnerships. He reached out to neighboring civilizations and galactic powers, emphasizing the coalition's commitment to peace, cooperation, and mutual respect. These efforts helped to reassure the galaxy at large that the coalition remained a force for stability and progress. Slowly but surely, the wounds of betrayal began to heal, and the coalition emerged from the shadow of treachery stronger and more united than ever before. The journey toward redemption had been long and arduous, but Avery knew that the lessons learned from this dark chapter would serve as a foundation for a brighter future. As the coalition emerged from the shadows of betrayal, Commander John Avery embarked on a mission to rekindle the Alliance's spirit and reinvigorate their shared commitment to freedom and unity. This chapter marked a new beginning for the coalition, a time of renewal and resurgence in the face of adversity. Avery understood the importance of commemorating the sacrifices made by members of the coalition during their darkest hour. He organized a solemn ceremony to honor the fallen, paying tribute to those who had given their lives in the fight for freedom. The ceremony served as a reminder of the coalition's shared purpose and the sacrifices required to achieve their goals. But Avery knew that remembrance alone was not enough to rebuild the alliance. He sought to reignite the spirit of camaraderie and cooperation that had once defined the coalition, organizing a series of joint training exercises and collaborative projects to strengthen bonds between member species. These activities fostered a sense of solidarity and mutual respect, reminding coalition members of the strength that lay in their diversity. At the heart of Avery's efforts was a renewed focus on diplomacy and outreach. He embarked on a diplomatic tour of coalition-held territories and neighboring systems, meeting with leaders and diplomats to reaffirm the coalition's commitment to peace and cooperation. These diplomatic overtures helped to rebuild trust and goodwill among the galaxy's inhabitants, garnering support for the coalition's cause. In tandem with his diplomatic efforts, Avery also worked to expand the coalition's influence and reach. He sought out new allies among the galaxy's independent factions and marginalized communities, offering support and assistance in exchange for their allegiance to the coalition's cause. These outreach efforts helped to bolster the coalition's ranks and extend their sphere of influence across the galaxy. Yet even as Avery worked to strengthen the alliance, he remained vigilant against external threats. Reports of increased lizard race activity in the wake of their defeat served as a sobering reminder that the war was far from over. Avery bolstered the coalition's defenses, deploying reconnaissance patrols and fortifying key strategic positions to guard against potential incursions. Amidst the rebuilding efforts and diplomatic overtures of the coalition, Commander John Avery couldn't shake the feeling that echoes of war still lingered on the horizon. Reports began trickling in of isolated skirmishes along the fringes of coalition-held territories, hints of a resurgent lizard race probing for weaknesses in their defenses. Avery wasted no time in addressing these new threats. He convened a series of emergency meetings with the coalition's military leadership, strategizing on how best to respond to these provocations while maintaining the fragile peace they had worked so hard to achieve. It became clear that the lizard race, though dealt a significant blow, was far from defeated, and their thirst for revenge burned brighter than ever. In response to the escalating tensions, Avery ordered a strengthening of the coalition's defensive posture. Patrols were increased along the borders of coalition-held space, and intelligence-gathering operations were intensified to monitor lizard race movements and intentions. At the same time, diplomatic channels remained open, as Avery sought to diffuse tensions through dialogue and negotiation wherever possible. But despite their best efforts, it soon became apparent that the lizard race was intent on provoking a new conflict. Incursions into coalition territory grew bolder and more frequent, testing the resolve of Avery and his forces. Skirmishes erupted along the border, with coalition patrols clashing with lizard race raiding parties in a series of tense and bloody engagements. As the situation deteriorated, Avery knew that decisive action was needed to prevent the conflict from spiraling out of control. He authorized targeted strikes against known lizard race staging areas, aiming to disrupt their operations and send a clear message that the coalition would not tolerate further aggression. These strikes, while effective in the short term, only served to escalate tensions further, pushing the galaxy closer to the brink of war once more. Caught between the desire to defend the coalition's territory and the need to avoid a full-scale conflict, Avery found himself facing one of the greatest challenges of his career. He knew that the decisions he made in the coming days would shape the course of the galaxy's future, determining whether peace could truly be achieved or if the echoes of war would continue to haunt them for generations to come. As tensions between the coalition and the resurgent lizard race reached a boiling point, Commander John Avery embarked on a mission to chart a path to resolution, determined to prevent the galaxy from plunging once more into the depths of war. This chapter would test Avery's leadership like never before, as he navigated a treacherous landscape of political intrigue and military brinkmanship. Recognizing that diplomacy was the only viable path to avoid catastrophe, Avery intensified his efforts to engage with the lizard race through diplomatic channels. Despite the deep-seated animosity between their factions, Avery remained steadfast in his belief that a peaceful resolution could be achieved through dialogue and compromise. Avery's diplomatic overtures were met with skepticism and hostility from the lizard race's leadership, who viewed the coalition's olive branch as a sign of weakness. Proposals for ceasefires and peace talks were dismissed out of hand, as the lizard race continued to escalate their military provocations along the border. Undeterred, Avery pursued alternative avenues for peace, reaching out to influential figures within the lizard race's empire who might be sympathetic to the idea of reconciliation. Through careful diplomacy and strategic alliances, Avery sought to sow seeds of dissent within the lizard race's ranks, undermining their unity and opening the door to negotiations. At the same time, Avery worked tirelessly to shore up support within the coalition for his diplomatic efforts, rallying member species behind the cause of peace and emphasizing the importance of unity in the face of external threats. He knew that achieving a lasting peace would require the full backing of the coalition's diverse membership, and he spared no effort in garnering their support. As tensions continued to escalate and the threat of war loomed ever closer, Avery's diplomatic efforts finally began to bear fruit. A breakthrough in negotiations led to a tentative ceasefire agreement, halting hostilities along the border and opening the door to formal peace talks between the coalition and the lizard race. The peace talks were fraught with challenges and setbacks, as both sides grappled with centuries of mistrust and animosity. But Avery remained steadfast in his commitment to finding a peaceful resolution, refusing to waver in the face of adversity. In the end, Avery's perseverance paid off, as the coalition and the lizard race reached a historic peace agreement, bringing an end to decades of conflict and laying the groundwork for a new era of cooperation and understanding in the galaxy.